The next item of business is consideration of Business Motion 15685 in the name of Jamie Hepburn on behalf of the Parliamentary Bureau on a Stage 3 timetable for the Social Security Amendment Scotland Bill. Point of order, Michelle Thompson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. On a point of order, I'd like to raise a concern about the admissibility of amendments lodged ahead of today's Stage 3 proceedings. Amendments 21 and 22 on winter heating assistance, lodged by Paul O'Kane on behalf of the Labour Party in Scotland, make a significant demand on the Scottish budget by seeking to extend winter heating assistance to some individuals of pensionable age by statute. That is to require the Scottish Government to cover the costs of the UK Government's cut to winter fuel payment. My concern is that the amendments were deemed admissible, but without giving any regard to the financial memorandum published to support scrutiny of the Social Security Amendment Scotland Bill. I therefore seek your guidance on how we can better assess the financial impact of these sort of amendments may have on legislation, giving due regard to financial memoranda, and how these sort of blatantly political amendments interact with them.
I thank Ms Thompson for her point of order. The Parliament has agreed a financial resolution for this bill. The fact that an individual amendment has cost implications of this nature does not prevent it being considered during Stage 3 proceedings if it meets the criteria, the admissibility criteria for amendments as provided for by standing orders, which these amendments did. We will now continue. We were looking at the timetabling motion for Social Security Amendment Scotland Bill. I'll begin again just for clarity. The next item of business is consideration of Business Motion 15685 in the name of Jamie Hepburn on behalf of the Parliamentary Bureau on a Stage 3 timetable for the Social Security Amendment Scotland Bill. Any member who wishes to speak to the motion should press their request to speak button now, and I call on the Minister to move the motion.
Move, Presiding Officer.
Thank you. No member has asked to speak to the motion. Therefore, the question is that motion 15685 be agreed. Are we all agreed? Yes. The motion is therefore agreed. The next item of business is Stage 3 proceedings for the Social Security Amendment Scotland Bill. In dealing with the amendments, members should have the bill as amended at Stage 2, that is Scottish Parliament Bill 35A, the marshalled list and the groupings of amendments. The division bell will sound and proceedings will be suspended for around 5 minutes for the first division of the Stage 3. The period of voting for the first division will be 45 seconds, and thereafter I'll allow a voting period of 1 minute for the first division after a debate. Members who wish to speak in the debate on any group of amendments should press their request to speak buttons or enter RTS in the chat as soon as possible after the group has been called. Members should now refer to the marshalled list of amendments. And we move to Group 1, Childhood Assistance. I call Amendment 2 in the name of the Cabinet Secretary, grouped with Amendment 4, the Cabinet Secretary to move Amendment 2 and speak to both amendments in the group.
Apologies, Presiding Officer. Presiding Officer, at Stage 2 we introduced an amendment to enable late applications for a number of benefits delivered under the 2018 Act. Amendment 4 brings Best Start grants into line with that Stage 2 amendment. We did not originally intend to introduce the same changes to the early years assistance powers, as we intend to repeal them and deliver Best Start grants under the new childhood assistance powers in due course. However, following further consideration, we have decided this is the best approach to ensure there is an option to include provision on late applications for Best Start grants before we repeal the early years provisions. That will ensure a consistent approach with other devolved benefits and ensure flexibility over when we can allow late applications for Best Start grants. Moving on to Amendment 2, this amendment makes a small consequential change to one of the headings in the childhood assistance provisions so that it reflects the amendments that were made to eligibility criteria at Stage 2. I would ask that members support these amendments in order to ensure consistency in approach to late applications, and so that the title of the new schedule on childhood assistance accurately reflects its scope. And I move Amendment 2 in my name.
Thank you. I call Paul O'Kane.
I'm very grateful, Presiding Officer, and as these are my first remarks of today's proceedings, can I put on record my thanks to all involved in helping to get the bill to this stage. And simply to note, Presiding Officer, in terms of this group of amendments on childhood assistance, that Scottish Labour will support the amendments in the group, welcoming largely, I think, the technical fixes brought to this part of the bill, in particular ensuring the fair treatment of late applications in Amendment number 4. Thank you.
Thank you. And I call on Cabinet Secretary to wind up.
Nothing to add, Presiding Officer.
Thank you. Therefore, the question is that Amendment 2 be agreed to. Are we all agreed? Yes. Can I just confirm that we are all agreed? Yes. Thank you. We are agreed, and we move on to Group 2, Winter Heating Assistance. I call Amendment 3 in the name of Jeremy Balfour, grouped with Amendments 21 and 22. Jeremy Balfour to move Amendment 3 and speak to all amendments in the group.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And can I start by reminding members of my register of interest in receipt of higher rate PIP. I think it was Harold Macmillan that said, "Events, dear boy, events." And the amendment in regard to me of Amendment number 3 had been overtaken by events. This amendment was debated at stage 2 and was voted down on the convener's cast and vote. The amendment recognises the financial situation that the Scottish Government is in, but at the same time recognises that those who are the most vulnerable in our society do need the extra help. And I think, perhaps not for today, we do need, as a Parliament, to truly debate the issue of targeted benefits against universal benefits. With the financial situation as it is and going forward, whoever will be in government over the next number of years will have limited resources. And surely the point of benefits is to target those at the most vulnerable in our society. We already do this by awarding the similar type of payment to children who are under 16, who are on higher rate. And this benefit would have given those at pension of age who were on a higher rate of the age allowance benefit that extra payment to meet their fuel payments. It recognised that most of them stay at home all the time and must have extra heating costs. But as I said at the start, Presiding Officer, I recognise that things have moved on, so I will not be moving the amendment in my name today. If I could move to Amendments 21 and 22 in the name of Paul Kane. Clearly, this amendment prompted the statement by the Cabinet Secretary last Thursday, and in that statement, she went some of the way to rectify the situation that the UK Government has left us all in. But her suggested way forward, which would come in November next year, would not give the same help to every pensioner. They are given a less amount of money. And that, I think, is a concern, because certainly the number of emails that I and my colleagues on this side, and I'm sure within the whole chamber, have had, is that without this extra payment, there are going to be people this winter, whatever is discussed and decided today, who are going to be cold in their homes and that need that help. I am clearly disappointed that the Labour UK Government took this away, and we should not be debating this afternoon. But we are where we are. I look forward to hearing the mover of these amendments to see what he has to say. I would also be interested to know from the Cabinet Secretary what would happen if we were introduced the regulations, as she suggested last Thursday, came into law. What would happen if Westminster at any point reinstated the benefit that was already there? Would we then be paying two lots of benefit to pensioners? How would they fit together? And more to the point, how would it be administrated through? So I'm looking forward to hear the contributions from others, but at this moment we are minded to support the Amendments 21 and 22. Thank you, President Officer.
Thank you. And I call Paul O'Kane to speak to Amendment 21 and other amendments in the group.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. And we are now obviously at stage 3 of this bill, having had a debate at stage 2 about the nature of pension age winter heating payment. And in my remarks and contributions for those who followed the stage 2 process when Mr Balfour brought amendments on this topic, I was very clear that it was important that Parliament had the chance to discuss and to debate the nature of the fully devolved version of pension age winter heating assistance. And that is what we try to do today, and we set out an opportunity to talk about how that benefit should look going forward. Because my amendments today and my first amendment in 21 simply seeks to put the universal nature of pension age winter heating payment on a legislative footing. And again, I refer to my comments at stage 2, where I said that it was worthy of a debate and a discussion across the whole Parliament. Amendment 21 requires Scottish ministers to bring new regulations by the end of next November to ensure that all pensioners are entitled to some form of assistance from the winter of 2025 to 2026. And I have consistently said throughout the process that we have to look at winter age heating assistance in Scotland in terms of the context we are in. I recognise that I have asked the Cabinet Secretary a number of times what our plans are for this winter. I think it's clearly a last-minute decision was made and announced on Thursday about what will happen this winter, both in terms of the £41 million that I have been referencing throughout this process from the Household Support Fund, raising to £82 million next year. And I recognise the decision that the Government have made to spend that money more broadly. We have offered a package of measures that could have been put in place this year, which have not been undertaken. The Northern Ireland Executive, for example, I think have been working on how to use that money this year in terms of supporting winter heating assistance and moving to a £100 payment from the Household Support Fund, but that has not happened here in Scotland. It's clear that universal payments are something that the Scottish Government has repeatedly said that it supports. But I think, as I have been told by the Cabinet Secretary and others in this chamber, talk is cheap unless you are actually going to legislate to put into a legislative footing the payment as discussed. The commitment, of course, that was made on Thursday, I think was rushed and thrown together. I think we've now learned that from various sources. I think there is real concern that whilst an announcement was made in this chamber, there is no legislative footing for it. And surely the devolution of pension age winter heating payment is the opportunity to set out in law, in statute, how that payment will continue. So I think it's only fair that we have this debate today and that we have an opportunity as a chamber to vote on that new devolved benefit and put it onto a legislative footing. And let's be honest, the commitment that has come about late in the day from the Government is only possible because of that record block grant we know that has been provided following the UK budget, because it took the Cabinet Secretary. They don't want to hear this.
Let's hear Mr O'Kane. Let's hear Mr O'Kane.
Despite the discussion and the debates that we have had on this issue over many months, it has taken the Cabinet Secretary until now to confirm what she will do going forward with a new devolved payment, but also what she will do in the immediacy of knowing that those Barnett consequentials are there. So the fact is, the Cabinet Secretary has been telling me for months that she can't do anything because she doesn't know what the budget is. She can't base the budget on a wing and a prayer. She doesn't know if it was going to be £41 million this year. She doesn't know if it would be £82 million next year and what she would do going forward. But it is clear now that that budget has made things clearer. So I think that's why we have brought this amendment before us, and I appreciate that the SNP don't want to take this opportunity to bring the Parliament together to look at the devolved payment going forward and to put it onto a legislative footing. I think there's an opportunity here, as I have said at stage 2, to ensure that we have the debate and the discussion about what pension age winter heating assistance should look like going forward. So it is clear in terms of my second amendment there is an opportunity to look at how we do that going forward. The Cabinet Secretary in her announcement last week suggested that anyone above pension credit, and we know that pension credit is the criterion as set out in terms of delivering winter heating assistance. She has said anyone above that will receive £100. But there is an opportunity here, I think, in terms of looking at how we might do things differently differently in Scotland because we have this devolved payment. And in stage 2, I raised with her the comments of, amongst others, the Poverty and Inequality Commission and others who have pointed to the need to make a fairer system so that those who are high earners and have a high income in terms of their pension and the income that they have don't actually receive money that they are not entitled to. So I think Maggie Chapman wants to intervene, but I don't see her on the screen, Presiding Officer.
I call Maggie Chapman.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I thank Paul O'Kane for taking my intervention. I wonder, because it sounded like he was coming to the end of his remarks, could he just be clear that Amendment 22, that actually claws back money, would mean that this would not be a universal payment?
Paul O'Kane.
Well, I'm very grateful to Maggie Chapman for that intervention because I was coming on to talk about Amendment 22. What Amendment 22 does is provides a power for the Parliament to consider in secondary legislation whether it wants to create a mechanism in which it could claw back payments from those who have a higher income. Now, the reason that this amendment has been brought, amongst other reasons, is that evidence that was given by the Poverty and Inequality Commission in terms of the original consideration of pension age winter heating assistance about how the system could be fairer so that a universal benefit is paid. And then there are options through, they have suggested, for example, the tax system or other methods in order to take money back if that is required. Because we know that many people choose not to use their winter heating allowance. Many people choose to give it back. And indeed, there are options there that have been laid out, as I say, by the government's own Poverty and Inequality Commission, among others. So these two amendments seek simply to bring this matter onto the face of the bill to ensure that we have legislation for what the government have said they want to do. And indeed to give us the option in secondary legislation to create a clawback mechanism if that is what we wish to do. I'm just concluding, so I don't intend to take the amendment because there will be obviously an opportunity for further contributions, but as I say, I think it is an opportunity for the Parliament to come together on this issue and to put into statute that which I think we are all supportive of. I'm very grateful to you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you. I call the Cabinet Secretary.
Presiding Officer, Amendment 3 from Jeremy Balfour is focused on expanding eligibility to provide winter heating assistance via the winter heating payment to people on the higher rates of pension age disability payment and attendance allowance. Conversely, Amendments 21 and 22 from Paul O'Kane suggest removing our ability to target payments at people in receipt of relevant benefits altogether and would allow for all or part of the payment to be recovered where the income of the individual in receipt of the payment or anyone living with them exceeds a certain amount. On the 28th of November, I announced this Government would deliver a £41 million package of support for our pensioners this winter and deliver a universal support to pensioners through our new pension age winter heating payment from next winter. This includes a new £100 payment not available elsewhere in the UK. This will provide guaranteed support to around 900,000 people who had missed out this winter due to the UK Labour Government's decision to restrict winter fuel payment eligibility. That means those on disability benefits and who are above the income threshold for pension credits, for example, will now receive support. Our policy includes being able to focus on those in receipt of low-income benefits to ensure that people who are least able to afford increasing energy bills over the winter months, and they are increasing, Presiding Officer, can be identified and will receive a higher level of support. So it is surprising, if I can put it like that, Presiding Officer, to see Mr O'Kane present a proposal that could prevent a higher level of support from being paid to those who are identified through receipt of a low-income benefit as having a higher level of need. Much of his remarks was based on the requirement for a legislative footing, and I point him therefore to Section 30 of the 2018 Act, which does indeed provide a legislative footing for winter heating payments. It is also unclear from the drafting of Amendment 21 whether the ability to target assistance in this way will be removed. Removing our capacity to easily focus support on those most in need, I think, is concerning. Presiding Officer, as soon as the UK Government made its announcement to cut winter fuel payments from many pensioners, I committed to continuing to review eligibility for pension age winter heating payment, and we have delivered on that commitment. I'd like to thank Mr Balfour for his ongoing interest in this topic, which he has raised with me in the many discussions that we have had. And although we didn't agree on necessarily the solutions, Presiding Officer, I thank him for his time. With reference to what would happen if the UK Government was to change its mind, and there is still the opportunity for them to do so, that would obviously change the block grant adjustments that the Scottish Government would receive, and that therefore would be part of assisting the Scottish Government in mitigating against any UK Government cuts in this area. Presiding Officer, I reached out to Mr O'Kane last week to explain the difficulties with the proposal he has laid, both in terms of operational complexity and flaws in drafting. I was unfortunate not to receive a reply. So let's go through some of that in the Chamber today. Certainly.
Paul O'Kane.
The Cabinet Secretary will recall at stage 2 that I raised these issues, and I suggested that there would be an opportunity for a debate and for further discussion in this chamber at stage 3. So I don't think it's fair to characterise me as not wishing to engage. But I would suggest to her that she brought her statement on Thursday to this chamber with no less than 10 minutes' notice.
Let's hear Mr O'Kane.
So I don't think that, she never mentioned it to me previously. I don't think that was in the spirit of trying to find a consensus.
Cabinet Secretary.
Presiding Officer, it is disappointing that Mr O'Kane didn't take up that invitation, because I would have went through the flaws in the system, but I'm more than happy to do that in the public setting today. Mr O'Kane's amendment would require expensive and time-consuming technical development to implement, with development costs alone potentially running into the tens of millions of pounds. I'm sure we can all think of better ways to spend that money, Presiding Officer. Some of what would be required to implement this amendment, particularly the links with the DWP and the HMRC, would be so complicated it may not in fact be possible, and certainly would not be possible before November 2025. For example, it's not clear from the amendment how the agency could assess household income. That sort of data feeds would require, that we would require simply do not exist. Therefore, let's be clear, what Mr O'Kane is proposing today is a delay to support in pensioners. Exactly right. Even if these technical hurdles could be overcome with HMRC, it would be forecasted to require hundreds of additional seasonal staff in Social Security Scotland in order to deliver a one-off payment. We do not consider that an efficient use of the agency's resources. We must remember, of course, that these additional staff would have to be recruited and trained every single year at continued expense. In addition, it is not clear how Mr O'Kane's amendment, particularly his Amendment 22, would work alongside the existing framework of the 2018 Act. For example, under the Act, Scottish ministers can only recover payments if the individual is not entitled to the assistance they have been given, or are entitled to less, and the individual is liable to repay the overpayment. It is not clear under the Act how someone could be entitled but later subject to a decision that they are not entitled to the same payment. Again, let's be clear, Amendment 22 talks about giving money away to eligible pensioners and then taking it away from them. So when we compare the systems, compared to the Scottish Government and Labour proposals, we have a Scottish Government proposal that is universal, a Labour proposal that will go to the majority of pensioners. We have a Scottish Government proposal that is simple for pensioners to understand, £300, £200 and £100 for pensioner households. We still do not know and have no idea how much or for who the Labour proposal would be for. We have a simple-to-administer proposal from the Scottish Government, instead a genuinely unworkable proposal from Scottish Labour. The Scottish Government's proposal would be available from next year. Labour's would be at some point in the future if we could get past the technical deficiencies. Presiding Officer, this Government will continue to call on the Labour Government to reverse their decision to means-test winter fuel payments. So, despite Mr O'Kane's wishes to push this expensive and highly unworkable amendment to a vote, the real challenge, Presiding Officer, is for the Labour Party to figure out what it actually stands for, because Scottish Labour has had two chances to get this right, a vote in Holyrood and a vote in Westminster to scrap the cut. On both counts, Scottish Labour backed Starmer and not Scotland. For those reasons, Presiding Officer, the Government...
Thank you.
For all those reasons, Presiding Officer, the Government does not support the Amendment 3, Amendment 21 or Amendment 2, and I would invite Mr Balfour and Mr O'Kane not to press. Thank you.
Thank you, and I call Jeremy Balfour to wind up and press or withdraw Amendment 3.
Thank you, President Officer. I do think perhaps both the Scottish Government and Scottish Labour could have maybe approached these three amendments with a wee bit more humility on both sides. We are where we are because of what happened at Westminster, and I think it's slightly unfortunate that Mr O'Kane in his remarks did not at least acknowledge that and maybe apologise to Scottish pensioners here. In regard to Scottish Government, we do have to recognise that for the majority of pensioners, they will receive no extra benefit in this winter period. And I think one of the debates, again, we need to come back on, and one of the concerns that has come up on stage 2 and stage 3 is the way that Social Security Scotland work and the system that they have in place. Because in a letter that we received from the Cabinet Secretary, she seemed to indicate that even if we'd wanted to make these changes, Social Security Scotland could not have delivered them in this year. And I think that means we've got a system which is not flexible and which will not allow us to adapt to other stages. And I do think we have to come back to this, perhaps, either in this chamber or at committee, to examine what can be done. We are where we are, and for that reason, we will be supporting the amendments in the name of Labour, and I seek to withdraw my amendment, Presiding Officer.
Thank you. Jeremy Balfour seeks to withdraw amendment number 3. Does any member object? No member objects, and amendment 3 is withdrawn. I call amendment 21 in the name of Paul O'Kane, already debated with amendment 3. Paul O'Kane, to move or not move?
Moved, Presiding Officer.
Thank you. The question is that amendment 21 be agreed to. Are we all agreed?
Yes.
The Parliament is not agreed. There will be a division, and as this is the first division off the stage, I will suspend for around 5 minutes to allow members to access the digital voting system.